Today is March 26th, 2014, and we are interviewing Bill Kraemer at the Adams County Courthouse. Bill is 89 years old, having been born on October 31st, 1924. My name is Mary Ann Barnard, and I'll be the interviewer. Bill, could you state for the recording what war and branch of service you served in?
World War II, Army of the United States.
And what was your rank?
Private first class.
Okay, great. Where did you serve?
I took basic training in Fort Bragg, North Carolina, in the field artillery.
Okay. So were you stationed overseas?
No, I'm not a hero. I am a survivor.
Okay.
And I'll continue why I never been overseas. During the basic training, I was on maneuvers. When we come back from maneuvers, we stayed in a mess hall, and after mess and mail call, it was announced over the PA system that anyone, if they care to go swimming, transportation would be supplied. Of course, being in New York, I was invited to go swimming. We were supposed to be back at before 5 o'clock for retreat. That's a lowering of the flag and a tap being performed. And all of the personnel was supposed to fall out in the company street. And the platoon sergeant would report to the captain, the company commander, all present and accountable if they were present and accountable. But Private Kraemer was not. He was upstairs burning up with 105 temperature. The last thing I knew was Sergeant Adrian McGarry. He was the platoon sergeant. Get an ambulance up here right now. And at that time, I went into a coma. And I was in a coma for an entire week. When I come out of the coma the following Sunday, I thought I had seen someone sitting over here on my right near my bed, and something was pressing against my knee on my right leg, and it was the post chaplain. And I looked at him and I asked him, "Where is the light?" The light in the room or the ward was so bright, was 3 times brighter than the sun at noon. And he got up and he said, "My good man," he said, "what you are trying to explain to me was the light of the Holy Spirit." He said, "You were a week ago last night, I was called to your bedside and I had administered your last rites." And he looked at and he said, "In a few minutes, you're back in here with us." And he said, "In a few minutes, an orderly will come in here, shave you, and maybe you'll have a little bit to eat." So in a few minutes, here he come, and I was sitting up, and the chaplain stood at my side, and he said, "Now, soldier," he said, he looked at his watch, and he said, "It is early enough I can preach a sermon. I'll be back at 1300 hours. That's 1 o'clock. He come back, he's all dressed up, he's a major. He had the oak leaf on his shoulder. He had the shawl, a purple shawl around him. And he said, "Bill," he said, "you're up and you're feeling well." He said, "In your lifetime, when you get the calling, I want you to go out like Jesus did and you witness. You witness that you had the Holy Spirit look after you." Well, I went home. I was entitled to a 10-day convalescent furlough, and I went back to New York for a while. And when I come back, I was misplaced for a little while. I asked the company commander, "May I work with the provost sergeant?" "No," he said, "the provost sergeant has the duty to keep veterans or GIs busy on the camp, mowing grass, putting coal in the kitchens, small chores like this. But you're a special individual." He said, "The only place I could keep you busy is in officer's mess." Oh, glorified KP. Well, that's all right. Get me busy. Well, during the time while serving and taking the dishes off the officers' tables, I overheard a conversation from some of the top brass that the individuals that I took basic training with never reached the beach of Enzio. They were in the first wave. By this, I mean, if you've seen the motion picture Saving Private Ryan, the first 15 or 20 minutes of that combat scene shows you what they went through, and here I am talking about it. Well, I stayed there for probably a whole month in the officers' mess doing a KP and dining room orderly. Then I was the new recruits come in, and I took more basic training on a larger field piece, 155 millimeter cannon. But they never used that, to my knowledge, in World War II. I took basic training on 105 millimeter. Then after that basic training, we went to Fort Meade, Maryland, and that's a that's a port of embarkation, and we were ready to go overseas. You had until midnight to talk to the chaplain to clear your conscience. And about 15 minutes before midnight, orders come down. Instead of getting on the boat at the port of embarkation, we got on a train. Well, a troop train takes forever. They're always sidetracked. If there were 8 cars in the made up the train, the mess at the kitchen would be in the center. It took forever for us and we never knew where we were going to go. We got to Fort Custer, Michigan, and that's near Battle Creek where Kellogg's is, and we were let out in the snow. We stayed in the snow in Thames wooden floors and a heater in there, and we fired everything that the government had us to fire. And after a week of this kind of training, we thought we were going to the Aleutians. After a week of that, we were permitted to go back into the barracks, refresh ourselves, and here come a bunch of officers in. And they wanted to know if anybody in the barracks could talk German, Italian, or Japanese. My name is Kraemer. It's of a German descent. And they recognized that, and they asked me, "Sprechen Sie Deutsch?" No, I said, I do not speak German. So anyway, they had me transferred to another barracks, and all of these individuals were of German descent, and we didn't know what we were going to do. We studied a little bit, a whole lot, maybe a little bit or a whole lot of the Geneva Conference. If you were a guard, what you could do to a guard or what you should not do, and what give the law of treat a guard like a prisoner as a human being. So we studied this, and the next move we made was on a train. Another overnight, 3-4 days, and we've been sidetracked for probably 4 days. We finally got down to Illinois. When we got to Illinois, we got to Macomb, Illinois, and that was the spring of 1944. It had been raining cats and dogs, I think, for probably 2 weeks. It was mud. Outside of the train, you could see the water run off the windows of the train. When we got into Macomb, they said, take out your duffel bag, put on your rain gear and your overshoes. We had overshoes because it comes from a snow area. We had overshoes. And it took forever to get from Macomb into Table Grove, where the camp was situated. Well, we walked on planks, and if you walked on planks and mud, the water would squish up on you. Well, in 3 weeks' time, we were sleeping in the bed with mud in it. You couldn't help it. Well, when we walked by the compound, we knew exactly what we were going to do. They were German prisoners of war from Rommel's campaign, North African campaign. Field Marshal Montgomery from uh, um, the UK shut off Rommel's supply, and therefore they had to surrender. And we received 1,500 at Camp Ellis at the time I was there.
Camp Ellis was,
In Illinois, between Ipava, Table Grove and Ipava.
we had German prisoners of
Yes,
war in
yeah, a
Illinois?
lot of people from Illinois didn't realize that there were German prisoners of war in this county, in the whole state. But I was a guard of them. And now I am allergic to height, the worst way. I lived with it for 89 years. But anyway, they wanted me to be in the towers. I was in the first tower, was relatively low, and I managed that. But I confessed to the major. He was Jewish of the compound. He was a major, and he was from Brooklyn, and that I couldn't stand height. So I was very fortunate, and I was in charge, or one of the GIs that took a bunch of 32 prisoners from Camp Ellis to a little town east of Havana, Illinois, called Topeka, Illinois, and that's on the other side of the river, Illinois River, and they cut hedge. Now, if you know anything about hedge, another name for hedge is Osage orange. And in this here tree, below the bark, there's a little bit of a branch wanting to come out in another year, and that little stump is very hard. The prisoners of war had to measure a line post of 7 and an end post of 10 foot. And then one individual come by with an axe, and he would chip a 7 foot and make a little bit of indentation in the log, so the others would take a cross cut and cut it off. This chip went in his eye. Well, the guards were equipped with a whistle, a set of handcuffs, and a 30 caliber combine and a 45 pistol. We didn't have to use any of the except the whistle. I was standing right next to the individual with a chip in his eye, and he screamed bloody murder, and I could hear him scream yet today. He said, "Kill me, kill me! You got the gun, kill me!" And with this, he passed out. We had to handcuff him before he passed out to the seat of the truck so he wouldn't pull it out. So it took forever for an army truck to go up to the farmhouse and use a crank telephone and call Camp Ella, and the orders come from, you take the same route, you travel every day with the prisoners, and the ambulance will meet you. So it made the connection, and about 2 hours and a half, the GI truck come back, and project ended for that day, and it lasted until probably the first part of October, the middle part of September, and then from there on, I had the privilege of being a guard in the prisoner of war ward of the hospital.
And where was the hospital?
The prisoner of war hospital. It was for just prisoners of war.
In
It was
Illinois.
in the camp,
Okay.
and every day I had night duty from 8 to 8, 12 hours duty. Well, it lasted for me probably 5 weeks. And I knew the KPs that come in every day, they just same KPs, and I knew them by name, and I just had to check their name off. One day, one of them he just didn't get enough sleep the night before or something, and I wore the gun. You're supposed to wear the pistol on the right-hand side, but Bill Kraemer, being different, he wore the gun on the left-hand side on this side. And when I stood up to check the name off, he rubbed my holster and gun, and it annoyed me because there was so much room between. He didn't have to touch me. So when this incident happened, I looked out the door, and here come my relief that I should be relieved and I could go to breakfast. So in the meantime, the KPs went into the kitchen, started the KP doing whatever they had to do in the kitchen. So then when I come back, I passed my relief at the gate, and he opened up the gate, and I walked by the kitchen, and he stood up in the kitchen, and he put his arms on his hip, and he insulted me in German. I could understand German, and I could speak German pretty well at that time. If you don't use it, you lose it. I can't speak it now. So I kicked the door open, and I hit him.
Did you know?
I hit him.
That's what she was asking
Yeah,
about.
that's the problem that I had with the prisoner of war.
Can
That's
I
the
ask?
trouble.
I want to. This is interesting, but I'm going to ask you some questions which will tie into your story.
Okay,
So can we? I'll ask some of those, and then it'll tie in
sure.
because now I know where you were.
Yeah,
in the
okay.
war. Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. So outside of this guard situation, did you get along with the officers and the fellow soldiers?
Oh, with the fellow prisoners? Oh, very well.
And then your other co-soldiers, your
Oh,
American
yeah,
soldiers?
very well. Sure, had good relation.
Outside of this little
Yeah,
incident.
that's the only incident I ever had the duration of the arm.
Did you, obviously, the next question is, did you feel pressure, stress, or anxiety? But that situation probably made you feel very uncomfortable. Did you get reprimanded for popping him?
Yes. Yeah, I was confined. My punishment was being confined to the area indefinitely. But that period of time, it was kind of the fall of the year, and it had snowed. And they knew that I was confined to the barracks or the area right there. And orders come down for Private PFC Kraemer at that time, to take 3 prisoners of war from the compound and take them to post headquarters and scoop the snow off. Okay, I took my time, took the carbine out of the rack, put the holster back on with the gun, paraded out there to the thing, and the guard opened up the gate, and here come the prisoners of war out. A civilian come up in a pickup truck, and I opened the door for one of the prisoners to get into the cab of the truck with the driver, and I thought I smelled whiskey. I didn't know for sure. Being athletic and only 19 years old, I jumped in the bed with the other 2 prisoners, and when the truck stopped at post headquarters, I jumped right out and opened the door, and I knew I smelled whiskey, and I told the driver, we are going back to the compound right now. No, we got to clean snow. No, I'm the boss here. We're going back. Well, when we went back, you could only keep a prisoner out of the compound 30 minutes. I could not find the officer of the day or the sergeant of the arms. You couldn't keep them out more than 30 minutes, so I was in trouble again. 2 strikes are out. President Clinton said 3 strikes are out. Well,
He wasn't born yet, so.
So then I was transferred to Chicago, to Skokie Valley, Chicago, and the veterans started coming from overseas, and I was kind of free at my duty, and we could work at Abbott Laboratories and pack blood plasma for 75 cents an hour. And help was always needed, and we always took advantage of that. And I, of course, private first class only got $54 a month, and I met a girl in Macomb, and the only way I could see her was to hitchhike from Chicago to Augusta, Illinois.
My goodness, we're going to get back to that. I'm going to ask a few more questions. Did you keep a diary by any chance?
No,
Or
I never
any-
kept a diary.
When you met this girl, did you write letters to her? Did she keep your letters?
Do I now?
When the girl from Augusta, did you write to each other?
Oh, every day.
Did she keep your letters?
No, after we married, I asked her, I said, that would have been a nice keepsake to keep the children, keep them. No, she burned them all.
Oh my
But
goodness.
I used to write on the envelope a fence
Uh-huh.
and a board, 2 posts and a board, Miss Darkest Chocolate, Augusta, Illinois.
Oh, that was sweet. Can you tell me, you told us a couple memorable experiences,
Yeah,
and I know there's going to be one where you didn't get in trouble, but let me move on here, okay?
okay, sure.
Were you able to stay in touch with your family while you were, as a guard, or was it very secluded? Did you have a family, like brothers or sisters or cousins that you wrote to when you were in the service?
I had an older brother, and we tried to make contact before he went overseas to meet at Effingham, Illinois. I was up at Fulton County at the time, and the train was going to stop at Effingham, Illinois, but we couldn't make the connection. But we never seen each other until the war was over.
But he made it through the war too.
Yeah,
Great.
he made us. Yeah, each of us come home.
Great. Did you have anything special or some kind of good luck charm that you kept with you, or?
No,
Okay.
no, just the Holy Spirit.
Okay. What was the food like? You were talking about the KP people at the food when you were in the camps?
Yeah,
You worked. Obviously, did everybody eat the same food? Did the
They
prisoners
ate
of
the
war
same-
eat the same food as
yeah. The food was set on a table, and the plate was in front of you, and the food was set down. They call it family style, don't they? And of course, on each mess hall table, there was a statue of a pig, and if you ate too much, you got that pig placed in front of you. So there was just enough food on for 8 individuals, and if you took too much, you got that. But the best thing of all, at times, maybe the mess sergeant would render a word of deity.
Mhm.
Not all the time, but as I recall, most of the time, the mess sergeant would come on, and before we commenced to eat, he would give the prayer.
Well, that's nice. What did you do for entertainment when in your jobs? What kind of entertainment did you guys?
Well, we had time off, and when we were here at Camp Ellis in Illinois, we hitchhiked because Camp Ellis was out more or less isolated from Macomb, and those that had cars was always full. The transportation was terrible. Movies mostly, USOs mostly, and if it wasn't for the USOs, they were very helpful. They give us the enthusiasm or the
Motivation.
yeah. There you go. Thank you for filling it in. Yeah.
When you did you take very many pictures? Do you have pictures of you?
No, I don't photograph very well. Really, I don't.
So you have no pictures from when your time in the service?
No,
Oh.
the only picture we have is when my wife now were keeping company, and we were more or less dirt poor, and the only wedding picture we have to this day is when we were married and we went back to her folks for a honeymoon, and we're lovey-dovey. We're sitting on each other's lap, or she's sitting near me, and I'm still in uniform. We were married in Bowen in the parsonage, and I was still in uniform, and the preacher was Joe Mason at Bowen, Illinois, and the only thing I had was a $10 bill in my pocket. The rest of my money was in the overcoat at her home, and he didn't want anything, and I said, yeah, you take this $10, and that was the best $10. 68 years this fall.
Well, congratulations. Do you remember the day your service ended?
Yeah, sure. November 15, 1945.
And you were, where were you at that time?
Percy Jones Hospital Center, Battle Creek, Michigan.
Were you ill or were you stationed there?
Well, we were transferred from Camp Skokie Valley near Chicago to Battle Creek, Michigan, or Percy Jones Hospital Center.
Okay.
November 15th.
And everybody was discharged at the same time, or did some people stay on?
No, if I didn't find a girl in Illinois or elsewhere in the world, I would have re-upped because I've only have a 8th grade education. I'm a victim of I didn't tell you that. Victim of circumstances. And I would have re-enlisted and made the Army a career.
Mm-hmm. But what did you end up doing then? When you got discharged, where did you go? You got married right away?
We were married and we went to New York. I spent 5 years in New York, and our first girl was born in New York also.
What year was that?
St. Albans, New York.
And what year was your daughter born?
1947.
Okay.
And yeah.
Then you said earlier you used the GI Bill.
Yeah, I went to school under the GI Bill. Yeah, had 39 months of schooling at $97.50 a month, and with that money, I invested it in livestock and machinery because we lived on a farm at that time.
In New York.
No, Illinois.
Now you had moved to Illinois.
Yeah, we moved to Illinois in 1950.
Do you have any friends that you kept in touch with after the war?
I tried 5 years ago to try to make contact with one of my buddies, and his name was Bill Dockery, and from Gate City, Virginia. And I looked up on the internet, had my daughter looked up on the internet to see if I could locate him. His cousin said, I can't remember Bill Dockery that served in the state of Illinois. Now, I remember Bill Dockery. We were together the first 13 months of the service, and he was with me at Camp Ellis, and he had a good job of driving a truck to Canton, Illinois, with the dry cleaning, but he got intoxicated at Canton, Illinois, and wrecked the Army truck when it come into the area.
Ooh, talk about trouble.
So he was transferred to Arizona.
So you never able to see him
that's
again?
it. That's the last, yeah.
Have you ever attended any veterans reunions?
Never.
Okay. And do you belong to the VFW or any veterans associations?
No.
Okay.
No, I'm a Mason.
Oh, okay.
I belong to the Ancient Free and Accepted Masons.
Okay. How do you think that serving in the service affected your life? Okay, that's all right. That's okay. That's all right. That's okay. You know, it's a very difficult time.
Yeah. When I was on the honor flight.
Oh, you got to go to honor flight.
I got to go on the honor flight a year ago in May. And we come across an area with a bunch of stars on the wall. It represented the 400,000 that was killed in World War II. And here I am.
I know.
I can't.
That's okay.
I'm sorry.
No,
Yeah.
that's why this is important.
Yeah.
This is very important what you're doing and sharing today.
Yeah.
So thank you for doing that. So obviously, we still have a military, and it's very challenging. I'm sure you have strong opinions about the military, good and bad.
Yeah.
It's kind of a necessary evil, but I'm sure that you have a feeling towards that.
I got you upset too, haven't I?
Well, it's,
Yeah. It's touching. It's
touching.
bad. Yeah. There's no winners in a war.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you ever watch war movies?
Oh, I sure do. I have lots of film on it. In all of the district, I never served in the war, in combat. and I just I enjoy watching. I shouldn't say enjoy, but it is pastime. Um, the poor souls that had the hardship, going what they went through, and
Mhm.
making the supreme sacrifice. Now I had two other brothers in it, if you want to include this. I had two other brothers in it. Charlie is 2 years older than I am, and we all had a preference to what part of the service we wanted to serve. He went into the Air Force. I went into the Army a year later. My older brother, 14 years older than I, he went in, I don't know for sure when he went in, but he had to go in 1943, the same year I went into, and he went through the Battle of the Bulge.
Oh, he did.
And he was in the quartermaster. And my nephew tells me, just about a year ago, that his dad was in the quartermaster, and he knew that the troops on the front line at the Bulge needed ammunition, food, clothing, anything that the truck could be loaded in. And he crossed a 20-acre field, or a little bit larger than 20, minefield, and it was so cold up there that the landmine never exploded. And he'd come home with a very high medal, but I can't tell you what it is. And my brother, he was in the Air Force, and he come up with me. But the only three medals I have is, and I show them when I talk about Camp Ellis.
Oh, really? I have two questions about that camp that I forgot to ask you
Yeah.
before. When the war ended, I mean, not when the war ended, but yes, when the war ended, what happened to the German prisoners from Illinois?
Well, when I left Camp Ellis, I was under that when I was served over there, that they could come back to the United States after 5 years after the war. I really don't know what become of them because I was transferred out of there. But at that time there's just 1,500. Now other people said they were 5,000 there, but to my direction there's only 1,500.
Okay. Do you have grandchildren?
Do I have grandchildren? Yeah, I have a lot of grandchildren.
Do they ever ask you questions about the war, what they're studying in school?
My two grandchildren are very inquisitive what I did, and my decorations go to my oldest grandson. But for now, I haven't given him, because I like to show them when I talk about Camp Ellis that I pave every year.
Oh, that's something you do, is you
That's
share
something
their
I do, and
history.
that's something I look forward to.
When do you do that?
The first weekend after Labor Day in September. This will make the 7th year that I'm going to participate.
That's wonderful.
Camp Ellis Days, they call it. And I usually have between 60 and 80 people in the audience listening to my program.
Is Camp Ellis pretty well known in that area?
Evidently not. I visit with people in Macomb now and surrounding area. They don't, and it was 17,000 acres. And I can't understand why they don't remember that. But, the people that I visit with, they're a lot younger.
It's
but
important what you're telling them. Your story is important.
yeah, but it's. I asked a question when I eat in a cafe or a restaurant up there. Does anybody know about anything about Camp Ellis? Where was it?
Well, was it top secret?
No, it wasn't a top secret. It was just set aside for a training camp. They trained medics. When I was up there, I really didn't know the size. I knew they trained medics up there, but I wasn't interested in that. I was interested in the prisoner of war compound and a lady that I was keeping company with.
That's what happens when you're 19. Is there anything else you'd like to tell us that you want to make sure we know about?
I believe this will catch it all. I'm privileged. I'm privileged to have this, the chance to talk about it. I'm privileged to serve in the military, but best of all, privileged to be an American.
That's a wonderful thing. We're very happy and thank you so much. Your story is compelling
Yeah, thank you.
and something I never heard about, so very informative.
Okay.
Thank you, Bill.
Yeah, that's fine. I hope this fills the bill.